Hey there everyone! Alright, now before I get into this, let me just address the elephant in the room. So, in one of my very recent videos, I said this. I'd say the next thing that'll appear on this channel will be a review of Blade Runner 2014, so stay tuned for that one. And of course you guys just had to bring it up that I made a mistake. So, look, I'm sorry. Yeah, look, in my defense, I was watching the road, I was concentrating on driving, you know, and it was just all very on the fly, I wasn't prepared. So, yes, I called it Blade Runner 2014, and I'm not ashamed of it. So Blade Runner 2049, as opposed to Blade Runner 2014, was directed by Denis Villeneuve, who I always want to call him Denis, because his name is spelt like P. So this movie is a sequel to the classic 1982 sci-fi Blade Runner, which starred Harrison Ford. This time around we've got Ryan Gosling in a role as a Blade Runner, who's one of these sort of a cop who goes after replicants, which are these artificial human beings. In the meantime, we've also got Harrison Ford reprising his role from the original Blade Runner, and in a way this is completing his trifecta of classic iconic characters that he has now reprised. So Gosling's character, Kay, during one of his early missions, he comes upon something that leads to a bit of a mystery, a bit of a puzzle of sorts, that has something to do with the replicant community, some major thing that is going to change the world. And so he then follows this case, which leads to a lot of very important discoveries. Now, it's the kind of movie that I can't really say too much about the plot. The director actually famously said before a bunch of preview screenings in America that he didn't want anyone to reveal the details of this plot, and I can understand why. Because there are a lot of surprises in this movie. From the opening scene, you're given a whole bunch of things that, yeah, kind of change the way you look at the film in a way. Now, I just want to throw it out there. Look, I'm not a huge fan of the original Blade Runner. Unsubscribe if you have to, if you're, so passionate about it. But look, let me explain. So back in 1982 when Blade Runner came out, look, I was, 9 years old. I was obsessed with Star Wars. Why did I say was obsessed? And so coming off the heels of Empire Strikes Back, look, I was expecting kind of another Star Wars. I mean, it had Han Solo in it. So when I sat down in the theater, my sister took me along to see it. When I sat down and I was watching this movie playing out that was, let's face it, a little bit slow, especially for a 9-year-old. By the time I started realizing that Darth Vader wasn't going to make an appearance and there were no Death Stars, I was a little disappointed. And I carried that disappointment throughout the years until, I've tried rewatching it a couple of times, including just a couple of years ago. I still just can't get into it. I can definitely appreciate the artistry that went into the film and what it was trying to achieve and what it did achieve to so many people, and I get that it was one of the most influential films of the 80s. I mean, there's so many like sci-fi noir things that evolved from this movie, The Matrix, etc. Like, there's so many things that were heavily influenced by this film, and that's amazing. But for me, it was just a little bit too slow. So when this movie came out, I thought, well, maybe it might be a little bit more action-centered. And I started paying attention to early reports, but everyone was saying, like, oh no, it's a bit slow. And my buddies over at Screencrawler did a great review in which they also said that, yeah, this one's a really slow burner. And so, man, I wasn't looking forward to going and seeing it. I was kind of like, don't make me go see the movie. But I went and saw it, and I gotta say, I didn't mind it. I'm actually glad I went and saw it. So the one thing everyone's talking about is the visuals, and yeah, everybody's right. This is a stunning movie to look at. Roger Deakins' cinematography is just, it's incredible. And not only that, the CG element. I mean, obviously, a movie like this, you're gonna have a lot of CG, and it was flawless. There was not one single CG element that I could actually sort of go, oh, that's CG. And, recently a friend of mine, Chandler, and I, we had a discussion about CG in movies, and this is one instance where it was necessary and it was done perfectly. And I've got to hand it to Denis that, he's retained the feel of the first one. He's actually created a sequel 35 years after the original that actually really fits. This felt like a Blade Runner movie. So the cast were great. Look, it's one of those cases I can't really say too much about the performances because Once again, everyone was kind of miserable and talking very slowly, and someone would ask a question and it would take several seconds before an answer came out. But in the context of this film, everyone did a great job. I was actually really surprised with Ana de Armas, who the only time I've seen her before was in Knock Knock, which, honestly, I thought she was terrible in that. And I was kind of thinking, what's she doing in this movie? Like, she was really bad in that movie, but it's proof that this time around, under a good director, she actually delivered a solid performance, and I loved her character. Again, it's not something I can really say too much about. She was the girlfriend of Ryan Gosling's character. But yeah, she was really interesting and fascinating. I've also got to hand it to Dutch actress Sylvia, who I'm not even going to try and pronounce the name. Look, there it is. It's a Dutch name. Huix? I have no idea. Whoever she is, she was great. She was one of the bad guys in the film, and she was just vicious. She was really intimidating and threatening whenever she was on screen, and I found her really interesting. And this is the thing, even though this movie was slow, like, don't get me wrong, this is a slow movie, I found it interesting enough that it kept me going from scene to scene. I did want to see what happened next. And again, coming from me, someone who wasn't that big a fan of the first one and wasn't looking forward to the slow ride again, it was okay. And the movie just had so many cool ideas. Again, without spoiling anything, there was a scene involving, let's say, a hologram and a prostitute. Now, if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. And it was just so unique and well done and just mesmerizing. I was really intrigued by what was going on in this scene. So there were a lot of moments like that throughout the film, and that's what kept it going for me. On the downside, look, overall, aside from the slow-moving plot, realistically, it probably could have been trimmed by 40-something minutes. I mean, the movie goes for nearly 3 hours, but I think if they'd made it a 2-hour movie, it probably would have been moving faster, and they could have actually got the story out that they were trying to tell. But the main issue for me was that I wasn't convinced by what they were trying to put across in the plot. Now, like I said, there's something that happens at the start which sets off this chain of events, which is a major thing within the replicant community. And a couple of times in the film, we're told that information from the characters. Like, they actually say something about how this is something that could break the world. And that's great, but I never felt that. Short of what I was being told by the characters, I never really got the feeling that this was a major event. And not only that, look, I'm sure there's going to be more Blade Runner movies, but Jared Leto's character in the film, who played a really important part, I just kind of felt that he was forgotten about. Like, towards the end of the film, there was no real resolution for his character. Maybe it didn't really need one at this point because, like I said, there probably are going to be more Blade Runner films, but I don't know, I just would have liked to have seen some kind of conclusion for his story. But look, other than that, I was pleasantly surprised. I liked it a lot more than I thought I would. Would I own it on Blu-ray? I probably would. Maybe not when it first comes out, probably, when it goes down in price a little bit. I would watch it again, not one of these movies I'd watch, repeatedly. I'd save it for special occasions, but yeah, I didn't mind it. I thought it was compelling enough that, I wanted to see what happened next. It was gorgeous to look at. And look, if you loved the first one, you're going to love this one. This is a worthy sequel. This definitely fit within the Blade Runner universe. It felt like a natural progression of the story, not just something that 35 years later they decided to make another one to make a quick buck. So yeah, if you're a fan of the first one, don't hesitate to go see this. And that being said, I'm going to give Blade Runner 2049 a 7 out of 10. Now, earlier I mentioned my friend Chandler, who I recently had a chat with about CG and action movies, that sort of thing. Well, he's actually posted a video on his channel in which we had a discussion about action movies. It's the first part of a series he's doing, collaborating with other YouTubers. So I'm going to put a link to it down in the description box below. If you're interested, check it out. It was great. We actually had a live collaboration, me in Australia, him in America, and yeah, I was really happy with how it turned out. Now, I'm throwing it over to you guys. So, Blade Runner 2049. 2009, not 2014. What did you guys think of it? I'm really keen to know, because this seems to be one of these movies that, yeah, people are on one side or the other. So, yeah, if you've seen it, let me know. Did you like it more than the first one, or did you like the first one more than this one? So drop me some comments either here or on Facebook. All the social media links are in the description below, because I like to talk about movies, and I would love to talk about movies with you. I'll catch you next time.
Click subscribe to stay up to date with all the latest movie reviews. Skynet will be taking over any day now, so what have you got to lose? Nyah.